myself, Melissa Espinosa from the Office of Diversion and Reentry. Madam Chair and colleagues, unfortunately, there are still rampant misconceptions about voters' rights, accessibility, and the qualifications of individuals with current or previous involvement in the criminal justice system to participate in the election process, that is, to exercise their constitutional rights. So voter ineligibility disproportionately affects predictable segments of the population by ethnicity in particular, and the data suggests 1 in 13 voting age African Americans are estimated to be disenfranchised, attributable to these disparities. So by creating a task force, as we're calling for, focusing on registering justice-involved individuals, this motion essentially intends to elevate and expand LA County's efforts with the purpose of assisting those individuals who have the right to vote, to cause them to be civically engaged. And I simply suggest to you that we need to fight on a variety of fronts with respect to the issue of reducing recidivism. We don't want people to recidivate common knowledge and practices to cause them to be constructively engaged in the life of the communities from which they are a part in the larger community. When people exercise their right to vote, it can make a difference, and every citizen in this county is worthy of having their say in what we define as a democratic process. So these initiatives, we believe, lead to a win-win for the individual, for the communities, for our society as a whole. May I simply amend the motion before us? The time period for the report back should say 90 days for the verbal update on progress, and a completed full written report in 120 days. That would be the amendment. The board remains committed, I believe, to advancing opportunities for every county resident and promoting those who deserve a second chance and those who should not be denied their right to vote, irrespective of the misconceptions that shroud this area of voting. I'm going to ask Judge Espinosa if he'd like to come forward, that be welcomed as well. Madam Chair, again, I thank you for your authorship, and we'll be glad to entertain any questions going forward.
Thank you very much. So you do not have questions for our registrar recorder or the head of ODR? Shall we go then to Supervisor Barker?
We may. It could be the case that both of our lead staff people in this regard have prepared remarks, and if so, we'd like to invite you to offer them. Otherwise, Madam Chair, we can move to the members of the board who may wish to query them.
I
don't have any prepared remarks. I just want to say our office is very excited to be the lead in this initiative.
Right.
I recall a conversation that you and I had with our team that sort of gave birth to this notion. We're very excited to be a part of it, Supervisor.
Excellent. Thank you.
And Steve Logan, Registrar Recorder, County Clerk, I would just echo that we appreciate the collaboration. The success of our voting while incarcerated program has really been based on the partnership with the other agencies. So we provide resources in terms of training and subject matter expertise, but the partnerships within the agency is what makes us work, and I think that's what's reflected in the recommendations today.
All right, thank you. Supervisor Barker.
Thank you, and I want to thank Supervisor Ridley Thomas and Supervisor Kuehl for your goal to help individuals become engaged and informed voters. There's no question when I look at the percentage of people that vote in each election, it concerns me. I feel like we are missing an opportunity to get people engaged in government, and I think that it's an important thing for this board to do. As you all know, and is evidenced by my goals with the Blue Ribbon Commission on Public Safety, I fully support individuals who have paid their debt to society to have meaningful re-entry services to become productive members of our community. And I know that it can be confusing as to who or how they register and even whether or not they are allowed to register. I do not want to shy away from some of the important conversations and questions. One of those is the idea that we use inmate welfare fund money to pay for the voter engagement task force as outlined in the June 8th board letter. Also, we know that the inmate welfare fund helps the sheriff to provide certain services to our inmate population. Without a better understanding of what the associated costs are with this proposal, the real impact of directing these funds is unclear. And I'm equally as frustrated because I've asked them, is this going to jeopardize any of the programs that are currently in place using the inmate welfare fund? And I'm not really clear as to what that impact would be. I would appreciate a better understanding of the ongoing costs and staffing needs for this task force and to get better input from the sheriff as it relates to the impact or services that are used, and if this will displace any of the services that are currently in use with the inmate welfare fund. But I have some questions for Dean Logan, and I do intend on supporting this motion today, supervisors. Dean, can you tell us what types of efforts used by the registrar recorder to engage, educate, and register our county residents in general is being done?
Sure, Supervisor. We have a team of people in our department who do outreach and public engagement for the whole department. Obviously, the voting in elections is the largest component of that. We do that based on a couple of things. One, we get frequent requests from folks who are having events in the community who ask us to come and table those events and have voter information materials there. That's the most significant impact. We also use data from past elections to show where if we've had issues in an election or if we've had particular areas of the county where there has been lower rates of population. We tend to focus in those areas to be sure that the citizens in those areas have information about voting and the mechanics of voting. We also conduct deputy voter registrar training for volunteers who want to go out and do voter registration checks on their own. So we do training classes and we certify people on the mechanics of doing voter outreach and education. So it's a small unit within our department. I think it's maybe three full-time employees who primarily work in that area, and then we have seasonal people that come in prior to the major elections.
So is your vision to increase that division within registrar report in order to accommodate or to do what's being requested today?
No, I think from the registrar's perspective, I think our role is to provide logistical support, provide materials, and to provide that training. As I said in my earlier remarks, the success of the programs that we've seen, especially in these populations, is partnering with people in those agencies who can assist us with that. So at least for the registrar's office, we don't align these recommendations to any increase in staff or we would incorporate that into our existing outreach program.
How many registered voters are there in LA County?
We have a little over 5.1 million registered voters in LA County right now.
And you've got 3 staff that do this outreach. I mean, that's a pretty amazing staff.
Right, and again, the idea is to get the material out to others so they can do that for us. And the other is a philosophy to meet people where they are, and that's why we try to go into communities where we know that people aren't getting the information.
So are there targeted efforts to reach vulnerable residents who may have challenges understanding the registration process or accessing registration information, both language barriers as well, I think of the elderly who are homebound?
Yes, that's exactly. We have a program that has gone out and provided training to staff at assisted living facilities. We go into communities. We have multilingual temporary staff who come in prior to the election. So at all of these tabling events, based on the communities that we're in, we have the materials are printed and translated into as many as 13 languages, and we have multilingual speakers who participate in that effort.
So when the motion says guide voter education and registration efforts, that means that you will then reach out to organizations that currently do reentry programs and provide them with the tools to educate on who's eligible to register to vote?
Exactly, and that's exactly what we do in the voting on incarceration program. We train the volunteers to go in and actually meet with the inmates, and we train the personnel in the sheriff's office to handle the ballots after we prepare that.
Thank you, Dean.
Same.
And Sachi, I mean, in terms of the budget, this whole welfare fund is...
I just want one there.
To me, as it relates to...
Oh, they took off for 14 and reward
I'd
for
like to
the
better
murder.
understand
Bummer because...
the funding as it relates to this program.
Okay, they just
how
did
it's
it
going to be
anyway.
funded.
Okay,
So I would ask
so I wanted to
come
speak
back
to that, so
something,
just forget that.
that kind of outlines how this...
Yeah, just give me a cue there.
Welfare fund money...
You are so good at this. I really appreciate it.
Let me just say that we have identified some AB 109 funding within the existing ODR budget to support this work initially. We certainly can't do an extensive expansion of the work, but first of all, we don't anticipate a lot of costs associated with the task force, perhaps none, but when it gets to the question of preparing and distributing materials with our community-based partners, we will identify some limited ODR funding for the
And I appreciate that, and I have no issue with allocating resources to educate people on voting, because what was the percentage of the last election, the voting? 27%. We have to get people engaged because it's vital for them, and especially when you look at what are on our ballots and the implications it has across the state and in this county. It's important for us to do as much outreach and education as possible, not to all segments, all populations. So I appreciate that, Judge.
Thank you.
So we'll report that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Supervisor, I also believe several of us have had questions about the use of the inmate welfare fund across a number of areas, and I believe it's being audited. So I think the auditor controller may be helpful in informing whatever we hear back.
When we report back, we'll report back on the welfare fund and just indicate whether or not there's any thought to utilizing it. We will report back.
Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Solis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to applaud the maker of the motion and the co-author. I think this is a really extremely important activity for us to undertake. And I really want to give a shout out to New Way of Life, who's been working, I believe, with our county already to help provide important information to individuals who don't understand the process and that they are eligible to vote. And I'm really behind this 100%, want to see more efforts like this. And because we have a very important election cycle coming up this fall, I would like to ask the author if perhaps we could get a report back September the 18th in 60 days from the CEO's office to see what progress we've made. Because I think there's an urgency. We are so very fortunate to live in a country and a county that is so progressive in terms of people exercising the right to vote and really making that capable. And I think this is one of those instances that requires us to be a little more focused on what tools we are applying and how useful they are, and if not, we can make those corrections and understand exactly where there are headways to kind of run through this and then make this process more seamless for people out there that have difficulty understanding the registration process, let alone where they live, their domicile, and all of that. And I'm particularly concerned about cultural competency and making sure that people get the right information in their language. Even if they're in our care, I want to make sure that people are also getting the language, culturally competent information to these individuals, because many do not understand. And I've heard that oftentimes from people out in the field. So I would just urge us to look at that. And if that's acceptable to the author and the co-author, to get a report back in 60 days. That would be September the 18th board meeting.
I have no objection to that, Madam Chair. Supervisor Solis, you called out one of the standout organizations in the Way of Life, with BOS, ACLU, and a list of organizations are seeking to maximize the franchise for individuals who deserve by virtue of their status as citizens who are imbued with the right to vote as a result of that. And I think this is fundamentally important. I recall when in the legislature seeking to do this, at that time LA County was one of the leading counties trying to do this work. But as we learned with issues such as and so forth, you can't assume when you get the work done that it is regularly nurtured and supported. So this is an effort to revisit that and make it better. So I agree with you, Supervisor.
Thank you. As co-author, I want to thank Supervisor Ridley Thomas for not only bringing this motion, but for being constant attention to this population and the whole idea of second chance and the idea of the ability to participate in the civic duty of voting is one of those aspects that make one feel more part of the community, as a part of reentry. It also reflects our commitment to pushing back those attempts to suppress voting. There's a lot of rumor that goes around about this population. Don't you know you can't vote? Don't you know once you've been in jail, they take away your right to vote? All of this misinformation really sits there unless it's countered. And that, I think, doubles the importance, really, of the task force. So just to clarify the amendment, it has a 120-day written report in it, which would be after the November election. So the request is to amend this motion to request a verbal report back in 60 days.
Right.
All right, so we both accept that.
Yes.
Madam Executive Officer, please call those who signed up to speak on this.
Would George Rossetti and Victor Trujillo please come forward and staff will assist you?
Okay.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Good morning, my name is Victor Trujillo. I think this program is a very, very good program. It should be given some type of membership where when these men do it, we'll do some good deeds at the jail. I mean, we're really, this is, to vote is an honor. In jail, to get that's a privilege. And I think, that's great. But, we have to start educating more our inmates and giving them some type of, some other areas of, like a place they could not be locked up in a two-man cell where they can be more in an open population and go to school like they're doing up in Supermax in that area. I know they go to church and stuff. We should dedicate ourselves, if we're going to be treating our inmates, our American citizens, with this kind of decency. It'd be nice to treat them with a better lifestyle in the jail system and educate them. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I completely agree with Mr. Trujillo and this program only. You cannot steal money from inmate funds. First of all, you need those inmates to vote because they know what's going on in there like I do after you put me in there so many times. And I'm sick and tired of hearing you talk about justice for everybody like that filth over at LA Unified that just got pled yesterday. A felony and he gets no time and you give me time from hell. Now when are we going to start taking care of our inmates? And are you talking about the mental health people that you're cycling through there with this new law that Ms. Barger was pushing, huh? Right, Ms. Barger? Where you could just pull people off the street and say that they're mentally sick and cycle them at $3,500 a day, which is $1,174,000 per bed per year. This is a shame. Now, what's not a shame is I worked with BACA for 6 to 8 years to fix this mess in the jails, and I'm seeing the jail mess is happening. Thank you very much, and please make sure this happens.
All right, that concludes those who signed up to speak on this item.